When you feel like you don't have a place in this world, it's a very hard place to be in. There's a lot of emptiness. It's like existing in the world, but not even existing in it. So for me, I think that alcohol was a way to numb those feelings.
People don't know how to fit in because there's a lack of belonging somewhere within themselves.
I'm going to be drinking forever.
Yeah.
Like, whatever I was at that point, I just thought that's going to be me forever. God pulled me into a different direction.
Beautiful.
Deeply profound, enlightening moment where suddenly everything just became brighter. It was like a light was switched on. Like, God, why do I still exist? Why am I still alive? God was like, the world hasn't seen who you are yet. It's time for you to be you in this world. Even as a child, I was experiencing God quite deeply, like quite vividly. So my perception of reality was quite different.
There's miracles everywhere if you are open to seeing it.
Certain experiences will just bring fire to that. Every day is such a blessing. I can't even explain how grateful I am.
And when you're perfectly aligned with something, God will bring those experiences and those opportunities in.
Real conscious music. To me, these projects are alive, the magical state to be in, when life itself is the ceremony.
Welcome to the Soul Revolution podcast, a space where stories find their voice and we find ourselves within them. The revolution starts within.
Hello, Soul family, and welcome to another edition of the Soul Revolution podcast. We have a very special guest with us today. This guest is often referred to as the man behind the camera, but also he is a sacred space holder, a guide, a mentor, and a dear brother and friend to myself and Alex. With no further ado, welcome Brother Gurjit.
Welcome, God's blessings.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, me today, I should say. We've been talking about getting you on the podcast for a while, and we've also been talking about what we'd like to talk about on the podcast.
Yes.
What we do so beautifully, I think, together as a team is we really set the intention of what we want each episode to kind of become. And the central theme when we open up is God to really take the lead. So with that being said, I think my first question to you is, who is God in your life? What does God mean to you? Oh yeah, let's start there.
That's a very beautiful question. To me, God is everything. In every direction I look, I see God. God is my best friend. God is my helper. God is my support. God is my protection. God is my home. God is my greatest ancestor. God is my parent. God is all things. God is the air that is moving through my body. God is my heart beating. God is the sound of the wind. God is that silence of stillness in between the words I'm saying. I could continue acknowledging God in all things, but yeah, God to me is everything, every single thing. Everything I can think of, and also everything that my mind can't even conceive.
Yeah, beautiful. How did God first enter into your life, or how did you enter into God?
I feel very blessed because even as a child, I had experiences and connection with God, with divine. So I'd say my early experiences of experiencing God were when my parents would sit me up as a child. When they'd put me to bed, they would sit me up and say, we're going to do some mantra first. We're going to do some Simran. Simran means remembrance of God. So we would sit and we would recite mantra for a certain amount of time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and then go to sleep. And as a child, that was such a profound experience. At the time, not really knowing how much value it has. But over time, as I've been progressing through my spiritual journey, it's really highlighted in me how important that was. Because even as a child, I was having spiritual experiences. I was having profound moments of realizations. I was having visionary experiences. I felt very protected and safe. So for me, I knew there was something real there. There was someone real there. There was a connection with that one as well. And when we were calling upon that one or remembering that one or vibrating with that one, we were feeling it and knowing it and experiencing it. And that is what I would say would be my first experience of God, and that really laid a strong foundation for me. And a lot of gratitude to my parents for that.
Yeah.
The grace that flows through the parents.
Yeah. Deep honour there, really, isn't there? What would you say was a moment where you thought God is real and there's no denying that God is real? Was there like a significant moment for you?
I think I've had many moments like that. Many times where you would hear, like as a child, it's quite normal in Sikh families, I would say, to hear stories of our history and of very spiritual, respected people attaining miraculous gifts and doing the unexplainable. And as a child, I remember these things being taught or explained, or these stories being told. We call them sakis, which just means like stories. And these things would be explained, and whereas I could hear sometimes other people would have their doubts of, is this real? How could that even be possible? You know, maybe it was exaggerated. But I was like firm, I was like, no, it's real. I just knew. And I think that also stems back to how I mentioned when I was a child, because I was doing the mantra and the prayer and I was experiencing God. So for me, there was not a doubt of like, what is this? Is it even doing anything? Like I knew it was real. There was a knowing there. And then that empowered like all things that would follow up in my life, because if I would hear a story, I knew it was real. I knew that these things are possible. So my belief in God, I feel like it's always been there. And then various times in my life, certain experiences will just enliven that and bring fire to that and really uplift and enlighten in different ways.
We often speak about the path that you and I are both on in terms of like our individual devotion towards God. Was there ever a time in your life where actually you kind of pulled away from God, or you weren't as devoted as what you are now?
Yeah, so I feel like life has its journey, right?
Of course.
And I feel like at different times of our life, we kind of drift away. It's almost like the ocean is dipping up and down, like the waves of the ocean, the waves of life. And at different times of life, I did drift away. And I remember particularly, and this is some stuff which I guess is really coming to more awareness over the last few years, where I've really been delving deep into my life journey and contemplating and understanding myself. And realizing that certain things like, like I mentioned, I was experiencing God quite deeply, like quite vividly, and to then go into the outside world and share my experiences, or to share it with other people around me, and realize not everyone's experiencing God in that way. People are not experiencing it at all. So my perception of reality was quite different. I felt very sensitive. I was really aware of things. I didn't feel the need to kind of talk a lot. I just wanted to feel that presence and be present with it. And so I remember in school, everything got dampened and I became quite numb. And then from there, it's like, various things, like then when I was a bit older, I started drinking and stuff like that. And, life just takes us in different directions, and we think, okay, this is the shape of the world. Maybe I should be like this too.
Sure.
We have those, we play those narratives in some way, and we just kind of go with that wave of like, okay, if everyone around me is like this, if all the people I keep meeting are like this, maybe I am meant to fit into that. Maybe those experiences I used to have before are not something I should be. And we have those kind of waves of doubt. And we just kind of drift. And yeah, at times I was kind of somewhat distant, but that faith and that love was still always there. And every now and then it would just call me back, it would anchor me back, it would just literally drag me back. And it would just be like, don't forget who you are. Like, remember.
Yeah.
And then various times, like, it would just awaken more within me. I'd do lots of learning. I'd spend lots of time listening or do my meditation or yoga or prayer or mantra, or I'd just spend time with people and just learn. And that was God's way of calling me back every now and then.
Beautiful. God has that way.
It has that way.
Yeah. You mentioned like school, and you saying things that they began to become a little bit dampened for you when you were in school. What was that like for you? What does that mean? Did you struggle at school, or was it not in terms of your academics, but in terms of like knowing your place?
I think that's exactly what it is, knowing my place. I felt very different.
Yeah.
I felt very like an alien almost. Remember that feeling? I was very sensitive to things, which meant I felt like I could perceive a lot of things that other people didn't. So but that was the strange thing for me, because then I was thinking, is it okay for me to be me in this world? Like I was really trying to comprehend that, and that's what led to me just being a lot more quiet, like allow myself to still be me a little bit, and like allowing that safe distance in some form. But yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like maybe a lot of people go through in some way, because I feel like maybe a lot of other people as children or when they're younger having spiritual experiences, they just don't know what it is.
Sure.
And we go to school and we just forget all these things happen. I'm really grateful that I remember this stuff, and I remember it so vividly, and there's so many experiences which I can remember so clearly. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that God kept calling me back.
Of course.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Little Earth. Little Earth is a retreat centre based in Wolverhampton. To find out more, you can check them out on Instagram or check them out on their website.
So after school or within school, you became, I would say, like you maybe withdrew a little bit as probably a protective mechanism for yourself as well. And then you spoke about, your journey with drinking. How did that take shape, and what was it that what do you think you were looking for or trying to escape from?
I guess the thing is, when you feel like you don't have a place in this world, it's a very hard place to be in within the self. There's a lot of emptiness. It's like existing in the world, but not even existing in it, because you can't be yourself. You can't be the true self. And it's working out, is the soul welcome in this world? And so for me, I think the alcohol in some way was a way to numb those feelings. And because it was such a normal thing in society, that a lot of people were drinking and a lot of people were binge drinking as well, that it just became like a thing of choice, like the thing to go to, until it becomes a normal thing, and then it becomes a routine thing, something to do, a social thing as well. But if I really analysed it, I think that was a way to numb that feeling of not having a place in this world, of not feeling like, is it okay to be me?
Did it make you somebody else, the drink?
I guess people would say it used to make me speak more. And it would probably like make me a little bit more communicative, because I mentioned I was quite within myself, in my inner world a lot. And I think that really would just allow bits of myself to be communicated more. But I think that was it. I mean, I've always been quite reserved, and I've still, even though I mentioned like every now and then I'll drift off the path, but I was still quite controlled, I would say, compared to the average person in some way. So yeah, I feel like it was just that way of numbing those feelings and doing it in a way which was kind of normal, and it just became normal, and it carried on being normal for a very long time until I stopped drinking about 4 or 5 years ago. And that was that year was quite a powerful year for me in many ways.
Shall we talk about that year for you?
Okay, so I will call it a spiritual awakening. I don't like calling it that because it sounds very cheesy. So I don't mean it in a cheesy way. It was a real life experience. It wasn't some made up thing. It was real. I just don't know what else to call it. So it was a few months before COVID lockdown. I remember this really clearly. I was really interested in, and not just then, but throughout my whole life, I've had a deep interest in meditation stuff and yoga stuff and all this philosophy and learning about spirituality from lots of different perspectives. So that knowledge was always there because I just was quite obsessive about it at times. So I was always trying to learn loads and loads and loads. But then a few months before COVID lockdown, there was something calling me to start practicing it a lot more and start learning about healing practices specifically. So at that time, I was reading books and I was really practicing and really learning the vibrations of emotions and then really being able to pinpoint what vibration is this specific emotion and really becoming quite sensitive to it or awakening that sensitivity that I already had, just embodying that. And then that really allowed lots of healing for myself to take place within my own world. And then lockdown happened, which meant now suddenly the whole outside world is cut off and I have a space to be me. And I was just continuing my healing journey. And at the same time, I remember a key moment for me was I was sitting in my garden. I was just looking at the grass. I was just looking at the plants and the trees and listening to the wind. And I just had this deeply profound, enlightening moment where suddenly everything just became brighter. It was like a light was switched on. And it felt like my breath had come into my body. It felt like I could breathe, I could exist. It felt like I could be me. And it felt like I was alive. And I just remember in that feeling like God exists, God is here. This is God, this is what I want to be. And in that moment, I had just forgotten everything of the outside world. And I just decided in that moment, I'm gonna stop all the things I was doing for my work, because at the time I was a DJ. So I was also involved in the commercial music industry and things like that. So in that moment, I had just decided, okay, I'm gonna stop all this.
And you were doing quite well in that kind of commercial side of things, right?
Yeah, so I was a DJ for 17 years. And within that time, we did about 1,000 bookings.
Wow. So
it was going really smoothly and consistently as well. And if anyone had asked me a few months before that, what's your long-term plans? I would say, I'm going to be a DJ forever.
Right.
Wow. I'm going to be drinking forever.
Yeah.
Whatever I was at that point, I just thought that's going to be me forever.
Sure.
But God pulled me into a different direction.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And suddenly I was just like, okay, I'm going to sell all my equipment. I'm going to stop DJing, because it was such a profound moment, because I was in that routine for so many years. And at that time, not realizing it, but all the things we do have a momentum, right? If you do things consistently, it has a momentum. So I was a DJ for 17 years, which meant most weekends I was busy. And the work we do, especially if you have your own equipment and stuff, there's a lot of heavy lifting to do. There's lots of packing up and setting up and moving things around, loading vans. Then because I was running the team, which meant I'm coordinating with a group of people. And then sometimes a group coordinating with multiple companies as well, if it's a big project for a big event or a wedding, which meant that suddenly when I had this break in COVID lockdown, that it felt such like a big relief that suddenly I've got a few weekends where I'm not doing anything. I've got no pressure on me. There's nothing to coordinate or organize. There's nothing to think about. And it just felt so liberating. And there was such a simplicity to that existence. At that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be, and it just kind of clicked in my mind slowly that I'll do healing work, I'll do meditation work, So then suddenly that year I was looking for really good courses to do, and I'd done the best Reiki course that you can find, Reiki Energy Healing. That was one of the first proper courses I did. And then from there it just stemmed on to doing more and more different courses to get my qualifications, get insured as a practitioner. That year I also stopped drinking as well. Yeah, so many changes happened that year. I was still working myself out. It wasn't like a sudden click. I don't want people to think it's like a sudden click and suddenly everything's perfect.
Yeah.
I was still working myself out. So I wasn't perfect in any way, and I'm still not.
Yeah.
But I was working myself out. Like every day, it was my priority. God is my focus. That God is number one. Number two is going to be myself, because if I'm in alignment, that means I can connect to God better. And then I would work out what my other priorities and loyalties or alignments are. But yeah, there was a year I was really working myself out, figuring myself out, work out how do I be myself in this world now? Because that was what I had heard when I was in this time of pure stillness and pure surrender. And I was asking God, what is my purpose in the world? Why am I here? And I was asking these questions really innocently. And this is something I think is really important, because we forget to communicate with the divine, which is something I'm really grateful for, with you and with Alex, because we can have these conversations, we can communicate with the divine openly.
Yeah.
And so I was really tuning into that and asking God questions, and some of them are really innocent, some of them were like really deep and profound, some of them were playful even.
Yeah.
We forget God is also kind and compassionate, and God is also has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
We forget things like that as well. So for me, it was just really getting to know God, what God is, and connecting to that one and allowing that presence to remain with me, and working out how I can allow that presence to remain with me at all times.
If you're enjoying this episode, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. We'll be deeply appreciative. Join our revolution. The revolution starts within. When you were going through your, I guess, like transformation, did you find that the people that you were around, did that have to like come to, was there like a change within friendship groups? Was there a period of like solitude?
Yeah, it felt like a lot of things were changing at that time, including my friendship groups. It was kind of both, in the sense that I was really enjoying spending time on my own, because I just really wanted to figure myself out. I wanted to figure spirituality out, figure out what the universe is, figure out my role in this world. So I was really enjoying that time on my own as well, and really making the most of it. I was spending lots of time connecting to mantras and really trying to work on my inner healing as well, making sure that I'm always remaining rooted and grounded and secure and feeling safe on this journey. So I was always reminding myself, or God was reminding me, let's say, with grace, that, do your spiritual practice as well. But then, and then also, the friendship groups did change, and it just kind of happens by itself. I feel like as we are learning to be ourselves more and more, I feel like naturally those things just kind of happen, where certain groups will just drift away, or the self will just kind of not take part in certain things as much. And I feel like that's also quite important to acknowledge, because from having conversations with people, I feel like that's a key thing which holds a lot of people back in the spiritual journey, because people think if they suddenly change, or if they start meditating, or they start praying, or they make a lifestyle change, suddenly they're going to think, what do my friends think? Will my friends abandon me? Will I have anyone to chill with? And will I have anyone to talk to? Will everyone think I'm gone crazy? Or will everyone think I'm weird? Like, people have these thoughts, and people share this in, whether it's one-to-one sessions or in groups or whatever it is. People share these things, that they're afraid of what other people are going to perceive them as. Or if they suddenly change their usual patterns, that it might confuse people, or they might not have a place in their usual spaces anymore. But I would say that this was something key for me. If I had stayed in exactly the same groups, having the same conversations, doing the same things, how would I have allowed myself to change or heal or grow or evolve or to be myself? Because I would just be in that same cycle. And I think that's a beautiful way to highlight things like Soul Revolution Festival and spaces like this, because we can come into a space like this and it feels safe, it feels accepting, it's welcoming, and everyone is welcome there. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you've been through, like everyone is welcome there. And then in that safety, we can then navigate the world in a slightly different perspective. We can learn from other people's wisdom. And that was something really key for me, because then that space coming from all the different friend groups and things like that, and then trying working out, okay, are there friends? Like, is there anyone who like resonates on a level which allows me to be myself? Because again, that's most people don't have that. And then slowly coming across like conscious spaces and conscious groups. I think Wider Horizons was the first one I went to, so huge shout out to Wider Horizons, because that was hugely transformational for me. And then Soul Revolution, which at the time was Soul Medicine. And I went to the first Soul Medicine event. These spaces are hugely empowering, because we realize there's so many other people out there in the world who are feeling similar in some way. It might not be exactly the same way, but there's similarities there. And in those spaces, we find comfort. We find that it's okay to be the self. It's okay to have time to figure things out. It's okay. And then in those spaces, I find lots of new friends. Friends that are really comfortable and safe, and we pray together, we meditate together, do, breathwork together, do mantra together, and all these things are like normal. I'm not going to be like a weirdo in the group because I'm saying a prayer before I eat my meal or something. It's like, it's normal. No one like thinks anything weird about it. It's just normal. Like, everyone's allowed to be themselves, and I think that's really important.
I think what's really lovely to hear about your journey is like the transformation that you've gone through. And often I think, especially like I've spoken to people and they come into the space, or they start finding out about these communities and these spaces, and they feel that everybody's like a guru and so enlightened, when actually if you take a moment to find somebody's story out, you'll realize that they've actually traveled through some stuff as well. And we're only human, and no one is better than anybody within this space. It's just that our experiences have shaped us, and I think it's really lovely to hear the moment of like realization of, okay, I want more for my life, or I believe that God is taking me elsewhere, but also how you speak about, I think very common themes for a lot of people is belonging. Where do I fit? How do I fit within these types of people, or these communities, or this space, or this school, or this college, or this uni, or this family, or there's a very strong sense of like people don't know how to fit in because there's a lack of belonging somewhere within themselves. And then I think through my own journey, I've realized that belonging, I only can fill it through God. Like God will fill that for me. Nothing else, no groups of people, but it's God first. And then when I then feel that security within that relationship with God, because I've come home to God, it's then, wherever I now go, I feel like I'm okay because I belong to God. Even if I'm not okay, I'm okay. That makes sense.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
When you asked me earlier about what is God to me, and one of the first things that came up was God is my best friend.
Yeah.
God became my friendship group. God's name became a friendship group. God's name became everything for me. And in those times, there was a lot of loneliness. And in those times, I was calling upon God to fill that, because who else can? God can fulfill all the things that we need. And I remember very innocently at times where if I was sitting and eating a meal by myself, and suddenly my inner child would come out, and I'd be like, I'm sitting on my own, I'm eating on my own, right? And suddenly the inner child would speak to God and say, God, I'm sitting on my own right now. I'm having a meal on my own. Will you sit with me and have this meal with me? And I'm really innocently communicating with God from that space of the inner child, which often gets really ignored or unacknowledged. And I'm really allowing that inner child to come through and have its voice and allow it to communicate with God. And it just kind of, loneliness I think was a big part of my journey, because it kept allowing me to empower myself more and more. So if I was going to an event or something by myself, then it would be the same. I would say, God, I'm going on my own. Will you come with me?
Beautiful.
You know, and it's such an innocent thing to do. But instantly, the feeling changes when that question is asked.
Yeah. It's like if you would call a friend, right? Oh, I'm going to this event, like, I've got a spare ticket, will you come with me? The friend says, yeah, I'm coming, and you get excited, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to feel so alone, or I'm going to have somebody to talk to. And I guess it's just what you're saying, it's the same principle. If we start speaking to God as a friend, inviting God in, God's there anyway, but that invitation, that dialogue between yourself and God then changes something vibrationally.
Absolutely.
The frequency, it will change something. Yeah, beautiful.
Something instantly changes.
Yeah.
I can't describe it in any way, but something instantly changes. The feeling changes, the loneliness is dissolved, there's a presence there, there's an empowerment. I'm not alone. There's
like
an
a confidence almost. Yeah.
And I think that was a key thing to me being more confident in being me, is just always knowing God is there. And how do I know God is there? Because I'm remembering God.
Yes.
I'm remembering God, I'm calling upon God, and I'm feeling God, I'm experiencing God. So I know, like, God is there.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who, you know, the concept of God is so foreign? So this conversation, they're listening into this conversation and they're like, I have no idea what they're going on about. Like, what is God, you know, or who is God? Or just somebody who maybe has had trauma around, like, religion. And, you know, I think it's fair to say that, actually, I think a really good point to highlight is, you know, we don't share the same faith, and nor does Alex. So the three of us, we have a different faith. However, we have a similar belief, I would say. And although our faiths may be different, the belief kind of pulls us in together. So our language is still the same because we still believe in God, even though maybe our paths are slightly different on how we have come to know God or how we experience God. So with that in mind, the person who just God is such a foreign subject and object or entity or energy, and also to the person who has had, like, religious trauma maybe, what would you say?
So I've come across things like this before, and I've done, like, one-to-one sessions with people who are unable to grasp the concept of God, or, like you said, might have trauma around it. But the way I then describe this is, we can call nature God. Because if you think of nature, nature provides everything that we need. The air that we are breathing, right, that's come from nature, it's come from the trees. The sunlight is providing nourishment. The food, the water, all these things are coming from nature. So if we then, and I have helped people to reframe it and have a belief in something or a faith in something, or to offer their prayer to something, and that something being nature, if that feels more comfortable for them. Because the label itself doesn't really matter. Because we can all say the breath is, without the breath, this body won't survive. So I acknowledge nature as God. Nature is everything to me. Nature sustaining me, nourishing my body, allowing me to exist right now. So we can think of it in many different ways. The universe, divine spirit, divine light. There's many different names. Waheguru. Many different ways and different names that we can all use.
And essentially you're saying it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Different people will have different paths, and each path is beautiful in its own way, and each path will have different views and different experiences on the journey, but essentially we're all walking towards the same destination. And I think that's, like you mentioned, like the dynamic that we have with me, you and Alex, like we all have different journeys, different paths, but the prayer and the essence of that is very similar, even though at times you might be using different words, but there's like a respect and a knowing that this is safe, because we can feel that what we're talking about is in some way the same.
And I was going to say that it's a feeling that when we do set out, you know, even before we started this podcast, we had a moment of meditation and prayer, and you did some mantra. Is that correct? Or you read, from sacred texts?
Yeah.
And although I had no idea what you were saying, there was a resonance. The understanding that I have of God and what I really honor about the dynamic between myself and yourself, and also Alex and other individuals within our space who have a relationship with God, is that we can come together and we have, you know, different faiths, as I said, but yet when we pray, you can feel it, it's tangible. It's like God is here, but we all relate to God in a different way. And I think I've said it, I say this often, like God will speak to you in your language, God will meet you in your language, you know. And that's one of the most beautiful things that I love about God, is how God will speak to you is completely different to how God will speak to me, yet God is still speaking. But when we are together, we will feel that presence because it's omnipresent, you know. So yeah, it's really, I think it's an honor and a privilege to be able to know God on a personal level, but also to share that experience with others who have a similar belief. And we recently put out a reel on the Soul Revolution Festival Instagram page explaining why we use God within our language, and also explaining that, you know, for other people it might be Mother Earth, it might be Divine Creator, it might be Creator, it might be Great Spirit, but in essence it's the same. It's the same. I remember you saying earlier on that you were asking God innocently, you know, like, why am I here? What is my purpose? What do you believe your purpose is?
The most simplest way I can put this is to be myself. Because I feel like a lot of people don't know who they are. They've gotten lost. They've forgotten their soul. They've forgotten their reason for being. And I feel like God was just telling me it's time for you to be you. And I felt like I heard this very clearly. I felt like God was speaking to me and I was hearing this really profoundly. Like, God, why do I still exist? Why am I still alive? God was like, the world hasn't seen who you are yet. It's time for you to be you in this world. And the innocent me would be like, what do I have to show to this world? The world is already perfect and beautiful. But God has his way, and I'm just surrendered to that. But yeah, I feel like I'm quite aligned to my life purpose. I feel like I really know what it is. I know that because I've spent so much time in dedication and devotion to learning it. And I really take out that time every day to remain on my path. And of course, I'm still human and I might drift away a little bit every now and then. I feel like I'm very much positively consistent most of the time. But even when I start to drift off track, God just like calls me back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm really grateful. God is very compassionate and generous and kind. God is everything.
Everything. What is you being you then? What is that? What does that look like for you? How do you show up as being you?
I feel like the nature of my soul is stillness, it is peace, it is bliss, it is harmony. It's knowing. Like I feel like my relationship with God is a knowing. It's not a belief, it's a knowing. There's not really, huge momentous things I need to do. It's just simply existing and being. And there's a simplicity there. I think simplicity is the key for me, of just being me in a simple way and doing the things I love. So all the things I do now are things I enjoy doing. All the work I do is spiritual work or conscious work or healing work or workshops or events or editing video podcasts or filming. But it's all conscious spiritual work, which is spreading joy and spreading spiritual wisdom or helping people on their life journey or helping people heal. It's all positive, uplifting work. And I feel like all of that stuff comes to me very naturally. it feels like it's a very simple thing for me to do. I feel like God wants me to be simple.
Yeah.
God doesn't want me to overcomplicate things.
Yeah. I'm laughing because earlier on we were recording like a short reel for something, and I can sometimes really get into my head because I have like so many different ideas. So then I get into my heads, and the first thing you said to me as I was like coming up with all these different ideas, it was just like, just keep it simple. You know, it was just, and I was like, oh yeah, let's just actually, okay, yeah, that really works. And it's the simplicity of things. And I think you do that really beautifully. Like your presence brings that remembrance to certainly myself of, it's not just simplicity, it's like the stillness as well. It's okay to just be still. It's okay to sometimes, because we can be in each other's presence and not talk.
Yeah.
I think when we were having lunch earlier, like we just sat there for maybe a good 10 minutes and we didn't speak, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was just stillness. And I think your presence can bring that to people, which is the reminder of stillness and the reminder of like simplicity. I think what you're saying what you said about this work coming to you, like all the work that you're doing, it's around healing and being in the conscious community, and it's something that it makes you so full because it's I guess that's what you've been created to do, and that's why it fills you up. But I believe why it comes to you so effortlessly is because you're aligned, and when you're perfectly aligned with something, God will bring those experiences and those opportunities in without you even really having to look for it. It just comes to you. And I think it's a confirmation that you are in perfect alignment with what God has called you to do and be. And then I often have had conversations with people and they're like, I'm really trying really hard in this certain area of my life and it's not working. And I just echo back to them, do you feel that that's aligned with what you really should be doing? And it doesn't mean that things come to us effortlessly all the time, because I believe there is something within. God wants us to build resilience, and God wants us to build courage and bravery and all these other skill sets as well. So not everything comes so easily. I think there are some things that require a little bit more work, but there is I think when you are in alignment, there's this peace that you have.
And I feel like it has its own momentum. Now, oftentimes people are thinking about negative patterns and cycles, and that's what often gets highlighted more in a negative cycle has come back up or they're re-experiencing something. We have to also acknowledge that the positive has momentum too.
Yeah.
And just as those other things can have its own habitual stuff and cycles, whatever, but the positive has momentum, and the more we are on this journey, the easier it becomes to be in it. And it feels fun, and it feels more and more liberating, it feels more and more joyful. Like for me, I feel like every day is such a blessing that I can't even explain how grateful I am. I literally cannot explain, and that itself can feel overwhelming.
Yes.
Because I'm like, how do I explain to God how grateful I am for the countless blessings which flow in every moment? Whether that is something of a simpleness of stillness in a moment, or whether that is the most profound sunset over a lake with a squirrel sitting next to me.
Yeah.
It's like every moment there is perfect. Like there's so much magical things that come from these alignments.
There's miracles everywhere if you are
Everywhere.
just open to seeing it. If you're enjoying this episode, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. We'll be deeply appreciative. Join our revolution. The revolution starts within. Gurjit has come on board as part of our media team now, so he'll be looking after the music side of Soul Revolution Media. Do you want to maybe talk about that a little bit? And we've just got we don't have it to hand. We could have shown the CD. But anyway, we have like an album coming out shortly, which you've produced and worked on tirelessly over the last few months. But yeah, do you want to just talk about your involvement with the media side and your vision?
It's been an honor and a blessing to be involved with the Soul Revolution media team, and it feels very fulfilling because, like I mentioned, doing work which is conscious and spiritual healing and helping the world in some way or helping people in some way, that itself is such a blessing. And it also allows me to remain in this stillness and this joyful state. The album in itself is, I think it's 18 tracks, and we started recording it last year.
Yeah.
It's such a magical project because there's so many amazing, talented artists who contributed to it with their unconditional love, with their magic, with their creativity, with their skills, with their time, with their blessings and prayers, with their heart, with their authenticity. Like, it's such an amazing project to be involved in, and to be leading the production of that and facilitating the recording of it and production and mixing and mastering and then coordinating and release. It was a journey. That in itself felt like a journey. It felt powerful, and it's amazing that it's going to be released on 17th of July, and then we got the launch party as well on the 19th of July, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, to me it just highlights the power of community, of everyone coming together to share their prayer in any form, in any way, to share their words, to share their magic, and share the devotion, and to co-create, and just sprinkling in their love in this way, and how it's manifested into this beautiful project. And the intention of it is very pure. The intention of it was because we know that a lot of people come to spiritual festivals or spiritual events or spiritual gatherings, or they might go to anything that's something like that, which allows them to be themselves. But then sometimes we then go back to real world, let's say, and then the momentum of the real world can sometimes drift us away from that, or make us feel alone, or make us feel like we don't have a place in the world, or whatever it is. We sometimes then drift back into the reality. So this project had this intention, this prayer, this blessing, that we want to create a package, a container, where there can be a collection of prayers, of a collection of music, a collection of meditations, of breathworks, to help people to remain in that state, in their own space. And these are not just random people, but these are people who are involved in Soul Revolution Festival. So imagine now we've got 2,000-3,000 people who come to the festival. They're going to see these artists and these facilitators on stages or in their facilitation spaces. And then they can then come away and find one album which contains a bunch of these. And then that will allow them to continue that momentum of healing, of spirituality, of meditation in their own life, in their own journey. So it's something with that intention to allow people to integrate, because integration is really important. We don't want these things to be a one-day thing, a 3-day thing, and then that's it. We want to inspire positive transformation. We want to inspire healing that lasts, and joy that lasts, empowerment of the soul. We want people to know it's comfortable, it's okay for them to be them in this world. And that is the Soul Revolution, right? That is another way of expressing what the Soul Revolution movement is. And this is a project which allowed that to be embodied in a form and then presented to people, like, you know, and they can use it in whichever way, because someone might wake up and just want to jam to some music. And there's a range of music in there. There's more dancey stuff, there's more like really chilled stuff, there's a bit more ceremonial type stuff, mantra. And there's also meditations, and you've done a wonderful contribution of a powerful prayer on it as well. It's a really powerful project, and each song was recorded in ceremonial state. So with every single artist that came, we would sit down in the studio, we would have some cacao, we would meditate, we would say a prayer.
That's like our little trademark thing now. So everything is ceremony to us, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would have a cacao, we would meditate, say a prayer, we would do a few breaths, we would share how we feel in the moment, we would share intention, we would discuss the intentions of the project, really connect on the level of the soul. We will call upon divine, and we'll call upon God to be present and guide the session and guide the recording. So every song was recorded with that intention, and it was a powerful ceremony.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful to be part of that, and it's exciting.
We're grateful to have you on board as part of the media team, and you know, as you were talking then, and I just thought, you know, life is ceremony, you know, and it's so beautiful that we're able to co-create together and do it in something, in a setting that is, we create the environment, we create the container. And you know, often people talk about intentional living and becoming more intentional, and I think that is something that we really try and live by, that you know, every moment is intentional, and you can really feel that in the work that you do. So even when I was doing my prayer recording with you, for example, you know, before we even set out to do any work, like we've spent like an hour or two together just through prayer and breath and meditation, and you know, just being really intentional and inviting God in. And it's just a real honor to be able to co-create in that environment. And that's why I believe the quality of the work is then just so like magnetic and magical and expansive, because of the intention that's gone into it as well. Everything is ceremony. So yeah, thank you for that.
Absolutely. I feel like the project, when it's really done with that pure intention, with that prayer, with inviting God to be the core of the project, I feel like the project itself contains spirit. It contains a form of consciousness. It's almost alive. It allows itself to reach out to the listener and to heal them or guide them or sit with them or be whatever it needs to be in that moment. And that, to me, what this music is. When I'm making conscious music or spiritual music or any project, whether it's I'm recording a guided meditation or breathwork journey for any project I'm doing, it's like, to me, these projects are alive. They're conscious, and they're helping people in very dynamic ways and very fulfilling ways that are designed to be life transformative and really help people beyond like what we can really imagine, like real conscious music, right? We call this music conscious music.
Yes.
But to me, that means the music is alive. That to me means the music has spirit.
Okay. Yeah.
It has personality.
Yeah.
And it communicates.
Yeah.
But also wanted to highlight what you said there. You said life is a ceremony.
Yes.
Because that's the beauty of being on a spiritual path, which I feel like, you know, at first there's a discipline there because we have to have our practices and set routines, but then it becomes so ingrained within us that everything we do starts to become a spiritual practice. Everything we do starts to become an act of devotion. We start to see God within all things that we are doing, whether it is a conversation like this, whether it is a practice of yoga or going for a walk. Suddenly everything becomes an act of devotion and spirituality.
Yeah.
And I think that's the magical state to be in, when life itself is the ceremony.
When life itself is the ceremony, exactly that, yeah. And it is truly magical. So, as you know, in closing, we generally ask the guests to either pray or share some words. So, if you would like, which I'm sure you will, would you like to leave the viewers with a prayer?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, inviting everyone to close down the eyes and enter into prayer position. In 3 seconds, we'll be taking in a deep breath in. 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. Hold the breath for a moment. And exhaling into surrendering and acceptance of divine grace. एक ओंकार सतगुरु प्रसाद श्री वाहे Guru Ji ki fateh. With innocence and humanness, expressing gratitude to you, Divine Spirit, God, nature, Vaheguru. Thank you for guiding us. Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for shining your light. Thank you for allowing us to contemplate you. Thank you for all of the amazing, miraculous, wondrous things and experiences which you flow into our life journeys. May all people who listen or watch this podcast or the music projects, may they feel your grace and your compassion, your kindness, your love. May all people feel confident in being themselves. May we all realize it is okay to be the truest form of the self. It is okay to connect to divine, to experience divine. Gratitude, appreciation, harmony, love, acceptance, surrender, peace, bliss, love, unconditional love. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Vaheguru.
Waheguru.
In 3 seconds, we'll take one more deep breath in. 3, 2, 1, deep breath in. Hold the breath at the top. Very gently exhale that breath and allowing the hands to come back into relaxed position. And when ready, we can open our eyes and come back into presence of the space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been an honour. Gurjit is available for one-to-one session. He's a mentor, a guide. He also holds amazing sacred space. If people want to connect with you, how can they connect with you?
So people can find me on Instagram, which is Gurj Seek Within, also Seek Within 1-to-1, and I've also got a YouTube channel which has got a big range of guided meditations, of mantra music, spiritual music, breathwork projects, and even spiritual conversations. There's a whole range of things on there and a lot more that's coming. Also my website seekwithin.co.uk. Feel free to reach out, whether it is for a one-to-one session or whether it is for a group workshop or an event. There's lots in the pipeline. There's so many amazing things which are flowing, and it's all God's grace, and let's all enjoy this life experience. Let's all navigate life with joy and peace and harmony and compassion for the self and for each other.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you,
Deep
sister.
gratitude to you. Thank you as always. And thank you all for joining us. Remember, life is a ceremony. We are the magic. May God's grace and compassion be with all of you. Until next time, God bless.
The revolution starts within.